Growing up, I always had this ring around my neck that my mom would try so hard to scrub off, and I had no idea where it was from. She thought it was dirt, and she would take like alcohol or astringent and a pumice stone and literally scrub my neck until it was red and raw trying to get it off. She just thought I was dirty. She had no idea that something like diabetes or being pre-diabetic could be the cause of that. My name is Lindsay. I have an apron belly. I am plus size, and I am also a type 2 diabetic. And I have been a type 2 diabetic for a good portion of my life. I found out that I was pre-diabetic as a young child. I don't remember when I found that out, but that conversation was something that was regularly occurring. Probably from the point that I was like 6 or 7 all the way up through my teenage years. We talked about being pre-diabetic. My mom was a diabetic. My grandmother was a diabetic. A good portion of people in my family were diabetics. And so it wasn't a conversation that I hadn't already thought about or had heard. I had watched my mom throughout her life take insulin and other things. And so it was kind of like, okay, at this point, it wasn't news to me or anyone else, I don't think. And then when I was in my 20s, and I don't remember how old I was, but I do remember the exact appointment that they told me, Lindsay, you are now fully diabetic and you're going to need to do something about it. And of course, they scare you with like having to check your blood sugar and pills and the thought of insulin and all of these things. They give you a special piece of paper with a special, really scary diet on it. And honestly, I threw it all away and I ran away from this reality. And I just, what's the word, YOLO'd my way through my mid-20s and completely ignored my diabetes diagnosis. And it wasn't until, I don't know when I like the bulb switch, but at some point the bulb switch, I think me and my husband had really started thinking about getting pregnant. I decided that I needed to take my diabetes seriously. And so I found a doctor and I liked her. She gave me metformin. I started taking that regularly. I still was really bad about checking my sugar. I really did not check my sugar at all until I got pregnant. But I was at least taking medication. I was at least being mindful about what I was eating and not just, you know, flying by the seat of my pants 100% of the time. And then I found diet and exercise, and I actually lost a lot of weight, and my A1C got really under control. So much that she put me on the lowest dose of medication that she could put me on just to keep me on it, to make sure that everything was like level. But my A1C had gotten really, really good through my 30s. I really took it seriously, and I got it down to 5.6, where I wouldn't even be considered pre-diabetic anymore. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, and everything was still really, really good until my 3rd trimester, when your placenta kind of takes over, and I had to go on insulin during that time. But as soon as I had my daughter, like literally as soon as she came out of me, they took my blood sugar and everything was back to that 5.6 range for my A1C. And my doctor wasn't like 100% sold on me not being on any type of medication just because of my family history and things like that. And so what she decided to do is try me on Ozempic. And so I went on Ozempic a couple of years ago, right after I had my daughter. She said, Lindsay, now I can't promise this, but it could help you lose weight too. Well, it didn't. It did not help me lose weight. It kind of helped manage my diabetes, but it's actually not really working. And my diet has kind of been not great, not as focused as it needs to be to keep my A1C low. And so my A1C right now is right at a 5.9, back in that pre-diabetic range, which is why I recently shared that I wanted to lose a little bit of weight. Along with seeing my weight rise, I also knew that my A1C was rising as well. And I really just need to like hone in on my diet and get it back to where my A1C will drop back down to the 5.6, because I don't like having, I will always have the label of diabetes on me, but I don't like feeling like I'm a slave to it. I like being in control of my diabetes and not having to think about the possibility of needing to be on insulin like my mother or checking my blood sugar 50 times a day. I just don't want to live my life like that. And so the best way for me to control it is to lose a little bit of weight, to really hone in on my eating, get my activity level back up, And she's also considering trying me on a different medication, and she's working through the insurance approvals now. This is not a diabetic account or a weight loss account or anything like that, but I do share like little nuances of my life, which is why I feel comfortable talking about that. So currently I am still on Ozempic. I am going to possibly transition to a different drug just to get that A1C down a little bit, get a little bit of weight off me. And then we'll talk about what happens after that. But yeah, I am type 2 diabetic, and I do not let it scare me anymore. I do not run away from it. I choose to tackle it and take it on and attempt to control it so that I can live a nice, long, healthy life with my baby girl.